Welcome to NFL Daily, where finally the Claymates can be satiated. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio for the first time in a couple weeks. Good to be back. I'm with Jourdan Rodrigue. We spoke with her on Monday, so it's great to be in person with you. But for the first time in a couple weeks, yes, not just the Claybays out there, but the Claybon Vivants. The
Claybon Ivers.
That was one I forgot about. What's up, Patrick Claybon?
Just glad to be back in proximity with you guys. I was glad that the world got access to you, but I missed you, and we're back to talk ball, which is what we're put on this earth to do.
I mean, I'd like to think I'm a good family man too. If I had to choose, I was put on this earth, hopefully for them just as much as ball, but I do love ball.
No, yeah, well, Greg put on earth rankings, obviously. Family.
I don't know
tennis,
why I took issue with that.
Well, he loves to rank things, so yeah,
I really do.
And then talking ball is in the top 10.
Ranking, I do love to rank. I love to eat. I love to rank things that I ate. We're gonna be ranking things later on this show during the week. The top 101 is coming out on this show.
You scared me for a second because I was like, I'm unprepared.
No. Exclusively on NFL Daily for the first time on Friday. My written editor doesn't know.
People are getting access to the list early on this show.
That's absolutely right. And my written editor doesn't know, but he probably doesn't listen to the show. So we'll see if that flies. I maybe blew that by talking about it early.
How far along have you gotten in your blurbs? Because about 16 hours ago when I last talked to you, you were...
Oh, I haven't started the blurbs. The blurbs are the easy part. Sorting and figuring out and doing the research is the hard part. But this day, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's important, and because we got a lot to get to. It's around the AFC. Phrasing. It's a big day. We're going to hit all 16 teams in the AFC, and we're going to talk about what they got to do this offseason, big questions, potential cuts, trades, whatever we want to talk about. We're going to hit your AFC team, and then we're going to hit the entire NFC team, the entire NFC, on Thursday's show.
Because we have the capacity.
Yes, we do. That will include the Cardinals, who their head coach, Mike LaFleur, said Wednesday morning he's looking for two things in coaches.
Okay.
Character.
Good.
And capacity.
Heyo.
Like load capacity?
I guess you can...
Capacity for what?
Maybe to be able to do a lot of different things. I don't know. I mean...
So shouldn't that be versatility?
I don't know.
Were they put on this earth to talk ball?
They were put on this earth to coach ball in an almost impossible situation, and I wish them well. But we're not talking Cardinals today. It's around the AFC. We're going to have 3 minutes. I don't think we should have any timeouts. We got to stick to this 3 minutes. We did the extra 30 seconds. We're doing a full 3 minutes because there's a lot to get to with all these teams, and then we're moving on. So if you haven't said your piece by the end of the 3 minutes, you got to save it for another show. And we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills. And I'm going to start the proceedings. So let's get it going. Look, the Bills are $11 million over the cap. They have a ton of free agents. They have a lot to do in general. Connor McGovern, David Edwards, their interior offensive line, both free agents. Joey Bosa, Matt Milano, AJ Epinesa, and then a whole slew of kind of the old guys. Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, Darius Slay. They could all be gone. They might be looking to cut or trade Dawson Knox. Curtis Samuel could be gone. Taylor Rapp could be gone. So there's a lot to do here and not a ton of cap space. It's a new head coach, but in theory, like the same regime. I'll start with you, Patrick. What do you think is the biggest priority or out of everything I just said, is there something that concerns you a little bit?
Yeah, it's the thing that concerned me coming in to the Buffalo Bills season, which started famously in our regular season, and a very upset, agitated Brandon Beane talking about the audacity to think that this team needs help at wide receiver. The team needs help at wide receiver. The team needs talent on defense because the guy that would be best suited to facilitate the defense that as it's currently existed is the guy that just got fired. So... yeah, talent on both sides of the ball, but particularly in the place where they've needed talent for years.
Don't you think this is one of those holes on a team that it's just obvious, like they're going to do everything possible. Like, if they do nothing else this offseason, they're just going to get receivers. They're going to listen and open that complaint box, and they're going to satisfy that. And that always worries me about an offseason when there's, like, one big thing. It's like the Bengals this year, it's like, we're just going to get pass rushers. And, like, you got to worry about the whole team. It's a time to reset under Joe Brady.
Well, I would imagine a lot of those guys will end up departing that you mentioned on the defensive side, because even though Joe Brady has been there with these Sean McDermott coach teams, it's not his defense. He even mentioned in his press conference, I'm looking forward to getting to know some of you guys on the other side of the ball better. So this is going to be guys that they probably are letting walk in a lot of, at a lot of different positions and drafting to get younger on that side of the ball. And also, because he's an offensive-minded head coach, and they could not have beaten us over the head with it any clearer, this regime is all about maximizing Josh Allen. It wouldn't be surprising to me if they go super cheap and young on defense through the draft in parts, and cheap free agents, and then max everything out on the offensive side.
I think that's a great point. I think the defense is going to have a reimagining. And I think Joe Brady's done a quietly nice job with his coaching staff. I did want to hit this. Jim Leonard, an exciting young defensive coordinator who a lot of people around the league are high on. Pete Carmichael, Sean Payton's old caddy at offensive coordinator in Denver. He's going to be kind of the caddy for Joe Brady in the mix. John Fox is in the building. They got Pat Meyer, the Steelers offensive line, who I think did pretty good. Bo Hardigree was a guy who's done pretty well as a QB coach. I think it's been an interesting coaching staff, and I look at the roster. I just see a lot of needs everywhere. In the interior offensive line worries me the most.
The problem with caddies at positions is guys who would normally be elevated to the actual position aren't getting there. And so in this cyclical retread coaching society that we have, we're missing out on some guys.
Especially a guy like Pete Carmichael, who literally did not want to get elevated anymore when he was in New Orleans. All right.
Accidentally became important at my job. Worst day of my life.
Miami Dolphins, Patrick, you're up.
Yes. So I understand that the new GM was a longtime Packer. I understand that the head coach was a Packer for a brief amount of time. And there's this general perception, what seems like, well, it's going to be Green Bay South. I think the most notable thing about the Packers is they are the Green Bay Packers. They will remain in Green Bay. 500,000 plus owners are not Stephen Ross. And so there are going to be some things that are very similar with regards to the structure of this team. And so I understand free agency has been, hey, let's go get this flashy thing. We're signing this, and there's still going to be, I believe, players. But in terms of acquiring talent, I think Caleb Downs, I'm going to mention Caleb Downs a lot for teams here in this podcast, and a lot until we get to the draft, because they're right there in a spot where they could perhaps take the best player available. I don't know if that circumstance where there's been this general fiction of, the safety position, we don't necessarily get the positional value out of that. I think we may be running out of time on that, as we've had big-time contributors available in the teens, in like early parts of that, late parts of the top 10, if I could think about numbers there. So I think that's where you go in terms of cornerback, because they have a severe need there. Jalen Watson should be available right around $15 to $20 million range, which is not a lot of money to Stephen Ross. Is a lot of money to me, and I don't want it for Malik Willis. I think this team is going to lose a lot of games. And if we're talking about things we want, I don't want Malik Willis to go down to Miami and lose games.
PFT, Mike Florio, my old boss, threw out the idea that could Miami take the entire $99 million dead cap hit for Tua Tagovailoa this year and just kind of eat it. And it's going to be a reset year anyways. I don't think they're going to have the money for Malik Willis necessarily. I think they're going to have to take a little bit of their medicine. They made all these cuts. They have a bit of cap space, but they're low on the list.
The two players to me, I guess three, because I wouldn't want them to part with Jalen Waddle either. But like the two players to me that absolutely are must keeps here are Andrew Brewer, the center, and Devon Achane. Devon Achane, who I can never say his last name correctly the first time. And everything else is a rebuild. And when you float out, and when Mike Florio floats out that $99 million, I think that is so possible. I think that is so possible to just eat the pain in this.
I just
in this
wonder,
1
like,
year, and
literally how they could do it cap-wise. When I'm looking at the cap hit,
you don't
it just
have
seems very difficult.
You're not going to have a quarterback anyway, right? I mean, and at best you're going to bring in a bridge quarterback, and then you have either guys that you're 2 years away from moving on from, or a bunch of guys that are young that you need to just keep intact. One more year until you actually can build a solid roster around them, and they're on their cheap first year contracts or their second year contracts in this case. So I think that's super possible. It sounds insane, but I think it's possible.
All right, you're up with the Patriots.
Yes, your New England Patriots, Greg. The Patriots dramatically outperformed expectations this season by getting to the Super Bowl. And one silver lining from that loss, in my opinion, is that it showcased exactly what they need to prioritize in their roster this offseason, and that's the offensive line. And Mike Vrabel actually was pretty adamant that he doesn't want to kick left tackle. Will Campbell really struggled all season, and especially in the Super Bowl, to the inside. But to me, that actually sounded like a coach more having the back of his player in the moment, and maybe something that he softens his stance on as the further they get into training camp, and especially once he gets a look at some of the players available in this draft class. Their top free agent is Claybon Chason, but they could stand to beef up the edges regardless. They were blitzing a ton through the latter third of the season and into the playoffs, and Mike Vrabel's going to want to rush a little bit better with fewer players.
There's some big names available at edge, both in the trade market and in free agency, and I think you're onto something there that might be somewhere they look. They don't have the crazy amount of cap space that they had a year ago, but they got $40 million. Mm-hmm. They can create more. They have more than enough, and their drafts haven't been great. I do wonder if they get the Christian Gonzalez contract done this offseason or not. I worry that could be a lingering issue, and it's a question to me whether they bring Stephon Diggs back. You would think that they would, and I do think they will ultimately. But he's sort of on a year-by-year. It's a fresh new $22 million contract every year, and if they wanted even more cap space, which they don't really need, they could cut Diggs if they wanted to go for a guy like a Mike. If they wanted to like swap him out for a Mike Evans or go for like a younger player, like make a trade. Brian Thomas Jr. would be my dream.
Or instead of going year by year there, you could do an extension now for a couple of years, get some of that money back, and then invest that in other parts of the team, like the offensive.
And I think that Gonzalez contract extension, that might be where, to me, that's where I would put a lot of this cap space that they have in this year toward an extension. And then also be really realistic about the rest of their roster, because what they went and did was spend really high in free agency, knowing that their quarterback in Drake May could get them to a certain contention level if they built up enough and went out and bought enough talent around him. But they absolutely are thin. They need to supplement a lot of talent through the draft and eventually start replacing some of those higher paid guys with draft picks that they develop. And it's a special teams team. Mike Vrabel wants to use his special teams as an offensive weapon because he is a defensive-oriented head coach, and that means you need depth everywhere else on the roster, and they just don't have very good depth.
No, they don't. They have almost their whole offense returning if they want, which that's good. So that kind of gives you a little depth, a chance to build. But the drafts just haven't been great, despite Drake May being a part of it in the last couple of years. And if you look at like their linebackers, their cornerback, even their offensive line outside of Campbell, who's going to be part of their future, like who's there in 2 years? They need a lot of like core pieces. I got the Jets. This is more of a bigger question. Every team can sell hope. Is there any hope with the Jets? We will find a way. They will find a way. The fans always find a way. But as we sit here in mid-February, this feels close to as hopeless as a second-year head coach situation has been in a long while. The moment where I really lost like all semblance of hope was when he fired half his coaching staff 3 weeks into the offseason, and then he wanted a defensive play caller, and then something changed, whether it was ownership or Aaron Glenn just changed his mind. Then he fired everyone. Then he has Frank Reich, and it's just rough. The hope, I guess, would be that they have $66 million in cap space and a mostly clean slate. Like their free agents are Breece Hall, Quincy Williams. They're going to cut Justin Fields. They need everything, including a quarterback, but they do have money to spend. But I do worry that Muji and Glenn know they don't have much time, and it's just spending bad money to try to make this season work, and that's just continuing a vicious cycle. It is a tough situation right now.
Yeah, they're 1 year and 2 years and 3 years removed from a tough situation. I think our general idea about the state of the Jets necessarily over these regimes hasn't necessarily.
But at least Robert Saleh had a defense, had something you could hold on to. I think the offensive line is maybe something you could hold on to. Maybe there's the hope.
Yeah. So we find that hope in the offensive line. We realize where the team has been long term, and we set our expectations there versus the expectations being to the moon, and they get their multi-time MVP back off of a torn Achilles, and they go 5-12.
Right.
They have so many picks. You got to think
that's the hope. Good point.
They have so many draft picks because of the Sauce Gardner trade and the Quinn Williams trade, and it's.
There's the issue.
But what will they do with them? Here's the thing. So it's all of us are watching Trinidad Chambliss in court, fighting for his future to stay in college just one more year. Please don't send me to the New York Jets kind of situation. But I would expect them to try to make a splash for a quarterback with some of those picks. Now, the Raiders are not going to move out of this pick. We'll get to that in a minute. But somewhere across the league, I expect the Jets, knowing they do have an offensive line here, and a pretty solid one, actually, to try to push some of those chips in for a quarterback.
I think they'll wait on a QB. I'm not counting Kyler Murray even as he would be a splash and he would be interesting. To me, that's almost like the highest splash possibility that they could get. I would almost feel better if they sign a lot of guys that are kind of patches and they really focus on the draft. They even get more picks. They have 2 and 16. Just get all the picks, get all the young players, go on a long timeline.
You're operating under the assumption that anyone has had a long timeline on that team, Reese.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
You made the point. They don't have the flexibility to think long term, right?
It sucks. We're into the AFC North, a division that disappointed, frankly, in 2025.
I'll say.
Let's start with your team, the Ravens.
Okay, so the Baltimore Ravens, obviously, Jesse Minter comes in. Declan Doyle, probably the person
what a name.
Most people want to think about. And with Sean Payton, who had a more traditional fullback, Ben Johnson, if you want to, because those are the links that people have for the youngest offensive coordinator in the league now, who's actually going to be coordinating the offense, which is great. He's not in a caddy spot, which why would you have people do that? But Pat Ricard is a free agent. It's important to note that he has never. Fullback Pat Ricard has always outsnapped defensive lineman Pat Ricard. He has a fullback. He can and has been successful at fullback, I think, uniquely gifted at the position where he comes back. I think Likely could walk.
Isaiah Likely, yes.
You let him walk. You utilize the franchise's all-time leading scorer at tight end, where they've been able to have success with the quarterback. Tyler Huntley is back. This idea that there's another backup quarterback where you come in and it's like, oh, well, this guy won some games for the Cowboys. That was a lie and a myth, and we get rid of that.
Snoop is a free agent, though. You got to re-sign him. Yeah, I thought about putting him in the 101. Some good tape from Snoop this year.
Yeah, you should bring him back.
Miami.
Gilman, I think, needs to be back. Linderbaum needs to come back. DJ has mocked Jourdan Tyson for the team, and I understand that there's, this is going back years. You get a running mate for Zay Flowers. You get more help for Lamar at wide receiver. But he's also got Peter Woods, the Clemson defensive lineman, falling to 30. It would seem like, hope, a little hopium if you're trying to trade back and get a guy you want. But they need to be able to cause some problems on the interior of the defensive line, because I think the issues at edge kind of overshadowed that. But they have needs all the way up there to kind of cause problems there. And one thing you could also do is, since Calais is still playing football, you could sign Calais.
Oh,
just sign Calais. If we're gonna chase rings, let's do it in Baltimore. And I think that.
Oh, that would be. I like that fit in a Jesse Minter defense, just taking up space in those light boxes. Man, that's a good
1 minute.
I love that. And my question with them is bigger picture. Look, they just changed their head coach for the first time in almost 2 decades. How big of a reimagining is this going to be? Because he's from the staff, but this is a transitional offseason. They have $22 million in cap space, but I'm not sure they're going to keep Tyler Linderbaum, which seems crazy for a guy who's made some all-pro teams. But then you go through guys who just contributed last year. Charlie Kohler was a big player for them. Kyle Van Noy, Alohi Gilman. Is Nnamdi Madubuike retiring or not? We kind of have this feeling that he's going to. Are they going to cut Marlon Humphrey? I'm not sure if he's going to be around next year. Is Roquan Smith absolutely locked in? Like, how kind of reimagining do we get? Because this would traditionally, first year new head coach, be the year that you're like, oh wow, the rate. Like, it wouldn't shock me if DaCosta kind of went a little bigger in changing things than usual.
Similar conversation to the Bills, though. I think maximizing Lamar in this offense. I know we're over time. I think about the tight end position. They're going to want 2 tight ends, but they would potentially have a lot of money tied up in these 2 tight ends if they keep Isaiah Likely as well.
So Kohler, you can bring Kohler back, who's good. Ollie wants him on the top 101. All right, you're up with the Browns.
Hot damn.
I know, that was the other one, other than the Jets. I was just like,
The Cleveland Browns once again prove they are a beacon of football process and team cohesion. Throughout a coaching search in which multiple candidates dropped out, they lost one of the best DCs in the NFL because he actually wanted the job, but they passed on him. And reports leaked about asking other candidates to complete personality assessments and written assignments for the head coaching job. So while there is fun potential with Todd Monken, the guy who they eventually hired, several elements of this offense as well, including Quinshon Judkins and Harold Fannin Jr., and they need to go draft a receiver with a high pick. None of it will matter if they don't answer the quarterback question. And guys, there's a big quarterback question because Shedeur Sanders is penciled in right now as the starter, especially after finishing out last season. He'll enter his second season, and meanwhile, the Deshaun Watson media machine is starting to quietly put some stuff out there about his preparation to return and possibly play in 2026. Sounds like it was discussed with candidates for that job as well. Curious about you guys' thoughts on that one. Just cook. Go for it, Greg.
I would say I'd believe it when I see it, but it is the Browns, and they have been stubborn with Deshaun Watson, and if they can try to find any way to extract a little bit of value out of this disaster, maybe nothing would surprise me anymore. It's just great. It just doesn't seem. I think the reason is basically it's so painful financially to get rid of him anyways. You're just like, why bother? But it's another year where you're just kicking things down the road. I would make the argument as of mid-February, this is one of the worst offseason offenses in the last 20 years because they literally don't have an offensive line.
Right.
Somehow, and they have.
This has been pointed out, and
yes.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
We've said it on this show all season long that they don't have an offensive line. $78 million in dead money that hasn't even hit yet because they haven't made the cuts.
1 minute.
Their number one receiver is Jerry Jeudy, who was kind of a disaster. Quinshon Judkins was great, but he's coming off a very serious injury, and so is not going to be ready for a long time. And Shadeur's the quarterback, and David Njoku, for what it's worth, is a free agent. That's a tough one. But they do have the Mike Rutenberg Bible to study every night.
I actually understood that reference. The interesting part about this is that the defensive side of the ball obviously is very good, and they drafted well there as well. Carson Schwarzenegger was a great acquisition by them. But again, you're overhauling your entire system again because you let Jim Schwartz walk out of the building. So this is it's new everywhere, and if it's going to be this new in every phase, you definitely don't want to have questions at quarterback, and you don't want to have your entire offensive line contractually expiring at the start of the new league year. Like, what?
I think you could take tiny bites at the problem, like extending Delpit. I know it's a couple of years away from a Denzel Ward, maybe 1 year away from a Ward extension. You could do a Ward extension. I know, Peter and Paul's relationship is going to be altered a little bit there, but you got to choose one.
Yeah, Andrew Berry's got this. If anyone can pull this off, the fact that they have all these void years in these players that aren't going to be there, I think is kind of a fiasco. Let's see. Joel Bitonio might retire.
Well,
too.
when you've
Let's
already acquired the most dead money in league history, you might as well acquire more dead money via void years, right? If you can, why not?
It's not real. Sunk cost is a logical fallacy.
Credit to Jimmy Haslam. He does spend the actual cash that many other teams don't, and it hasn't been well spent. The Bengals are kind of on the other side of that. Every year, every offseason has a theme for the Bengals. Remember last year it was like, we're going to start fast. That's all they cared about. That's all they talked about. We're going to start fast. Then they had injuries. It didn't really happen. I think that the theme this year is just going to be defense again, but especially pass rushers. Been some buzz of like they're going to be going after some of the young pass rushers on the market. I mean, they would have had less of a pass rush issue if they had given Trey Hendrickson a long-term contract. Then again, Trey Hendrickson didn't play much football for them last year. They have $53 million in cap space. And yeah, all their needs are really on defense and the interior of their offensive line. Not a lot of logical cuts. And so that's good. They are a good combination of cap space, ton of it, and not a ton of meaningful free agents after Trey Hendrickson. Joseph Asai might get some money out there. Cam Taylor-Britt, someone will give a shot to, but he wasn't playing much. And so, like Duke Tobin, and they decided to believe in this group. Zach Taylor, Duke Tobin for another offseason. Do you think maybe they'll get a little more like win now-ish than they've been in recent years?
No, I don't know if the win now aspect has been the issue.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they honestly believe they had an opportunity to win now with what was available, and that Al Golden was going to bring what it needed to lead a young defense to be just enough. They were just clearly not just enough. It was a negative in that capacity. And, there's players available they could sign in free agency. Are they going to do it?
They have, and they've gotten a lot of grief for not spending, but they've spent fairly normal, and they just re-signed their own guys. They tend to go for the guys who go for like 2 for $20 in free agency. Like whatever Joseph Asai is going to get somewhere else, those are the types of guys that they might go after. So maybe not the top of the market, but maybe an AJ Epinesa or an Arnold Ebiketie at edge rush.
That can get them in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, stuff like that.
The problem that they had was they overestimated how low the floor, or underestimated how low the floor could be for this defense, because a great offense, especially in the NFC where everybody's trying to just load up in an offensive arms race essentially right now, especially with the Chiefs down, like you just need a stable floor for your defense, and you have to know what that floor is. And they clearly had no actual clue what that floor, the depths of despair to which it could sink the rest of this team.
Question for you guys. Do you think we'll get some Joe Burrow trade speculation in the next 2 weeks?
I will be driving most of it.
Really?
No.
Well, there we go.
I'd love to see it. I mean, this is the regular season. Why wouldn't you love to see it?
I always want a semblance of reality to it. And could other teams put it out there that they could give like all the picks for Joe Burrow? Maybe. It seems unrealistic to me at this point.
The reason why I think that, and it might be unrealistic, but the reason the noise, you asked about noise specifically, the reason the noise will continue is because it's already started. There's been reports surfacing about like Miami trying to trade for him. It's like, oh, we're going to turn down 4 first-round picks. Like, sorry. There's already
I think they would.
There's already been stuff.
Yeah.
I think the Bengals are the rare team that you would be like, I'll give you 5 first-round picks and 4 second-round picks. They'd be like, nah, we're not going to bother.
If the Bengals were the ones that leaked that report, they're telling you exactly what their price is. It's all that plus something else.
I think it would be next year if it ever happened. It'd have to be like another.
I do think there are multiple teams that need quarterbacks that would like to have Joe Burrow play for their football team.
I agree with that, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would be one of them. You're up, Patrick.
Yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the first thing they can do this offseason, go ahead and announce that Aaron Rodgers is going to play one more season. Most of us do not care, but a lot of people, I think, they would solve some organizational issues if you go ahead and get that out of the way. Him, Mike McCarthy, one last dance, which means MVS, who is a free agent, will be coming back, and we can have, Green Bay less south.
I don't want him to come back, but I guess I would feel like it would be disingenuous to say I do not care, because we'll cover it here on the show.
Yeah, no, I care as much about Kyle Van Noy's location.
Okay.
Right?
Where is he?
We do care.
Yeah. I have a little, I don't want to stop you here, but I did have this lesson for Walker, and I'm sure it was extremely annoying. I've now come to the realization the number one way that you can show that you care is to say, I do not care. You always care if you say, I do not care. If you didn't care, you just wouldn't say anything. That, if anything, it's sort of showing a little bit of a weakness.
In terms of the impact that I believe it will have on the 2026 National
I don't mean you in this case. I mean in general.
I do not think that Aaron Rodgers will have a significant impact on the outcomes of the 202026 NFL regular season.
He did it. He brought it back around. Sorry for killing the Steelers segment.
I just love that every time it cuts to a one shot of Patrick, all we just see is the word Larry across his chest.
Yes, Patrick is wearing a T-shirt called Larry the Brain Frog. Maybe we'll give the Steelers a little more time. Go ahead, Patrick. Sorry for ruining what was gonna be an electric.
No, we can make it more about Gregg. We can extend a couple of players who were very close to Gregg's heart. Kyle Duggar, the former Patriot, and team MVP, which Gregg likes to say derisively, Kenneth Gainwell, because of like a 2-season-long beef with regards to
I love Kenneth Gainwell. It's derisive to the Steelers.
I love this.
I need more of it. This is my love language.
Yeah. And so I think Jabril Peppers, if I could say that, needs to come back as well. The rest of the free agents, not to, diminish the impacts of Andrews Pete or Isaac Samalu.
So Sayamalu's that guy where I sent this list out and everyone's like, oh yeah, he's going to get a ton of money. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that. It's interesting. James Pierre played kind of well for them. I think they're going to cut Jalen Ramsey. I think he'll be in addition to my top 101 if you're just looking for possible transactions.
But also shout out to Mike at Forward Team Gear who was watching Fantasy Live and made a T-shirt celebrating Larry the Brain Frog and sent it to us. We appreciate you, Mike. And
that was because you tried to say the word brain fog.
Yes.
Said brain.
Coming off COVID or just a sickness?
No,
anesthesia.
It was some anesthesia the day before, and I tried to say brain fog, and I said brain frog, and it's like the tweet about the Grink.
Grink.
And,
yeah.
The question was the Grink there. That was it. It became a thing and a character on our show.
Gregg already forgot the story.
I remember. We're live on the show.
I would also like to see Pittsburgh get a 2, like a really solid 2 receiver.
Yes.
I think that would just take their offense from very mediocre to having the layers that it needs to have.
My medium warm take is this team is not that far away, and actually, I kind of get the vision of not like rebuilding, if nothing else. I don't know if Mike McCarthy was a good choice, but I think that they can win this year. You know what I mean? Like they have a good offensive line and a good defensive line. That's a great place to start. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Also, I did want to point out, we're taking a little extra time here with the Steelers. One thing I really loved in San Francisco, Santa Clara, and then on social media throughout the end of the season as we kind of were celebrating, okay, it's over, is a lot of people telling me what they really loved about this season were the co-hosts popping up. I mean, and elevating. And you have your Jourdan fans.
A lot of people told me
she's
that.
my favorite.
Why didn't you tell me that? I could have used
this. This is because you got to save it for the show, where it can be maximized. I'm just kidding. It came up now. I haven't seen you since the Super Bowl.
I saw you yesterday.
Okay, other than that, that was brief. That's brief. And a lot of people, I heard a lot of like, oh, Patrick's my favorite. And,
stop.
And I passed one along from a notable media member, but I got a few of these too. It was a big year for Patrick.
Yes.
Elevating too. And a lot of big time Shook fans. And so it was like different people have different favorites, but I think everyone really liked like the consistency and how you guys are on the show so much. And it's our show together. And that feels amazing. So nothing made me feel better at the end of the season than hearing from the Claymates and we got to think of the Rod,
Rod Squad,
the Rod Regents.
Yeah, the Rim Rods. I don't know what's going on.
No.
Let's take a break. We'll be back with the AFC South. Apologies to the Steelers fans.
It's not big, but it's important.
Back on NFL Daily. And we are ready to throw it to the leader of the Rod Squad, Jourdan Rodrigue.
Oh, my God.
And a team that became near and dear to her heart,
yes.
the Houston Texans.
My beloved Houston Texans. To open this portion of the show, I would like to read aloud to you a post on social media this week by the legendary and now retired Houston Chronicle columnist John McClain. If C.J. Stroud is traded, I'll walk naked down Kirby Drive at rush hour. Is anyone else willing to do it if he's not traded? Didn't think so. Basically, John McClain telling all of us that any discussion about C.J. Stroud potentially being on the trade block this offseason is ridiculous. And by the way, this man actually ate a newspaper after he had previously said, I forget what the scenario was, but he was wrong about said scenario and said he would eat a newspaper.
Not a good track record.
And he basically, he's true to his word. So personally, this is not happening, obviously. But in all
Todd McShay specifically is the one he's responding to. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I was not clear on where that even
Todd
came
McShay
from. Wow,
said,
we got a McBeef?
No, But Todd McShay said on his podcast that Stroud could be a trade candidate. And so that if, when the local news is looking for some stuff, then it's that particular.
Bad job by me because I did not even know where that conversation even came from. In all seriousness, though, Houston does have straightforward answers to like this offseason test that they're going to be now facing. They need to keep improving the offensive line, obviously, developing the offensive scheme, part and parcel with each other. And the young skill guys are on Nico Collins, and they absolutely love Woody Marks, the running back who really blossomed through the second half of the season, but they need to keep adding at running back. And Joe Mixon could actually be a cap cut for this team. The plan for Houston is really obvious and simple to me. They can keep the plan simple because they mostly have really, really, really good players, especially on defense. And to maximize this defense while it is still intact, they got a couple of pending free agents on the interior defensive line who I think they will make a priority to re-sign. But the floor of the offense just has to be higher. They were a 12-5 team last season in the regular season that lost 4 of its 5 losses by just 1 touchdown or less, and in those 4 games, held their opponents under 20 points.
Not much cap room. You get Tank Dell back potentially from that devastating injury, so that's like adding a player. But free agents, Ed Ingram actually I think is going to get a lot of money, which sounds crazy in free agency. Probably not from the Texans. You mentioned Sheldon Rankins was
priority.
The guy they probably want to bring
Settle,
back.
They want to bring back Settle too, but
Christian Kirk's another guy who made himself some money. It's tricky. I don't think C.J. Stroud is going to get traded. The theater of John McClane walking down the street naked would be something. Wouldn't
just people's reaction, or you want to actually?
No, I don't want to see it, but just the fact that if it happened, I'm sure they would blur it out like on the news when they put it on the news, because that would make the news.
It would make the news?
That would make
I
the
think
news.
so. I mean, he's like the most famous journalist in Houston, potentially, for sports, walking down the street naked because C.J. Stroud got traded.
The stakes are high.
I think there's a loophole where you could like create a structure where he's still walking down the street naked, but he's not necessarily visible.
I just think it's such a the vision for what this team is so clear, and it's so straightforward. Like what needs to happen for them to take the next step, and inclusive to the quarterback has to play better football because he absolutely lost it.
Yeah, it was one disastrous game. That said, when I heard the trade thing, I was like, it wouldn't be the most shocking transaction I've ever seen if you did hear some whispers about that. I don't know, or if that they thought about that. I just there's something there. It'd be really dumb though, and I don't think this would be the year that would happen. But I don't know. This is my guess.
I think there are some teams that need a quarterback that would
like he would have a great market. Would they think about it?
If it is going to happen, it would not happen. What, 2 years before they have to pay him?
Right.
It would happen the year before they have to pay him.
They can pick up his 5th-year option this year. We got the Colts up next with me. It's a really tricky line for the Colts. It's just a big question to me. How do they balance a very win-now roster, very win-now year for Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen getting another chance when their owner, says very explicitly, like, okay, we'll give them one more chance. Like the bar is extremely high. They have $35 million in cap space. With the fact that their quarterback, who's been very up and down throughout his career, is unsigned, would take $47 million in cap space to franchise tag, and most importantly is coming off a torn Achilles and might not play for much of the season or be good when he does play. I don't think you can assume, on top of just all the key players that have uncertain futures. Alec Pierce, Nick Cross at safety is great for them. Kwity Paye, I think, is going to get money not from the Colts. Braden Smith was their right tackle for years. He's considering retirement. He's also a free agent. Jermaine Pratt, who played a lot for them as a free agent. Could they trade Michael Pittman? Is DeForest Buckner going to play again? Is Charvarius Ward ever going to play again? Is Grover Stewart going to be on this team? Like, there's a lot going on, and it actually, I think, makes the case to have kept Ballard because of the familiarity and like knowing this roster, but it's a very tricky line, I think, to walk here about like they got to win, but they are high on the list of I don't know what the hell is going to happen with this team this offseason, and they're going to be extremely active, not by choice because of all these questions.
Which is why I think they should be a player in the Malik Willis circumstance.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, that sort of outcome wouldn't totally shock me because it kind of makes some sense.
Riley Leonard also wasn't bad, guys. I was assigned to the Riley Leonard games this year, too. Like, he really wasn't bad. Like, as a bridge for the first part of the season, I think
basically,
would
you be okay? Was he good enough that you'd be okay him starting your whole season? Because I think you'd have to accept that.
But that's not the parameter here.
Right. But I think you have to accept that as a possibility.
But you only have to accept that as a possibility if you're going to owe him money, and you're not. He's on his rookie deal. Like, that really, you can't, I don't think you can frame it in that parameter because that parameter does not
I guess
exist.
it depends who else other than Daniel Jones, if you bring back Daniel Jones, would you have with them?
I think a team has already been in this circumstance where Dimes is coming off an injury and they have a choice between an explosive player or bringing back Dimes, and it was Saquon the last time. It's Alec Pierce this time. Just go ahead and extend Pierce.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And I know I'm biased because it's one of my favorite players in the league. But, like, instead of doing all the cap chicanery and the idea that he may walk and then tagging him, and just go ahead and extend him now.
You pay someone known. You pay a known entity, and the known entity is he's going to make your offense more productive when he's on the field. The unknown entities are the injury recovery.
Yeah, and we talked about Michael Pittman as a potential trade candidate if you wanted to pick up some picks that you've lost. But the defensive stuff really worries me a lot more than I think people are talking about. Those are some good players. Buckner, Cross, Charvarius Ward, Kwity Paye, like on top of all this Daniel Jones stuff, it's a lot going on. A lot going on with the Jags this year. They were fun, and they're in an interesting spot. I'm curious where you're going.
Yes, and they have a need at cornerback. The benefit is they traded up to number 3 for a generational player who they can play at cornerback. And I think you start there. You go ahead and commit, and you say that he's going to be a cornerback. Yeah, we'll play him at wide receiver when they need to. But they don't have a need at wide receiver. They have a need at cornerback. So I think Travis Hunter plays corner. I went into this exercise hoping to defend Eric Armstead because he played 60% of the snaps, and they were a spectacular run defense. They were a full yard and a half better when Eric Armstead was not on the field. So if you can find a trade partner there, you go ahead and do that. Maybe a cut candidate type situation, and make Devin Lloyd an offer at the very least. Don't just go into this. I hope James Gladstone doesn't just go into this with the idea, well, it's going to be too expensive, so let's not. Just make Devin Lloyd an offer to try to bring him back. I know the idea that Etienne and him coming back is maybe a lot of hopium in that, but he earned money last year. The team was great with him last year. And I think this is a roster as constructed in 2025 that can win the Super Bowl if they are able to get a few more pieces in certain spots. So yeah, just try to bring Devin Lloyd back.
Bill Barnwell brought up Walker Little as a potential trade candidate. They can save some money with a few other cuts, but they are $13 million over the cap. So they're not a team that has a ton of wiggle room, and they can make it. They need to help their offensive line. They need to help the secondary, especially has free agents and needs. So Travis Hunter fills one spot, but Buster Brown was maybe their best cornerback last year, and he's a free agent. Greg Newsome, who they gave up Tyson Campbell for, who struggled, is probably leaving the ship. So they're going to be active. I think they need help stopping the run, like at defensive tackle and everything. So there's a lot going on here. BTJ could be traded.
Yeah, and that's where you could recoup some of your draft capital, and that's where you could also,
1 minute.
not factor him in your roster financial math moving forward. I do think that that's a possibility. One of the things that was interesting all season was watching them move things around in little shifts across that entire offense. And the combination of just knowing the background that James Gladstone comes from, and yes, I agree they should make an offer to Devin Lloyd. I would hope that James Gladstone learns more from the Ernest Jones situation than he did from the rest of the Rams' maneuverings at inside linebacker over the years, especially in this day and age of the league. But at a certain point, you're just not going to pay a huge amount of money to a guy who you came into the fifth year or came into his final year not even sure he was going to be on your roster the following year. Same with running back. Now, just operationally, I can't speak for the team, but operationally and historically speaking, this is a GM whose background is we can go find more running backs, and they love Facial Tootin.
They're fine there. I totally agree. And I like John Shipley, who covers the Jaguars on SI, had a couple connections that made sense to me. Just talking about the coaches, maybe a little Tyler Higbee as the backup tight end there. I liked, and then Malcolm Kuntz, the defensive line coach in Jacksonville. I think he'd be a good buy low candidate. Was also the defensive line coach for Kuntz in his good season. So those are just some like very under the radar, maybe day 3 type of free agent pickups.
They could facilitate the goodwill between the folks in Nashville and them. I know there's going to be great communication and late night text. There's reunite Armstead with Bob Saleh, and as a show of, hey,
I could see that.
We're friends here in division trade.
As a gesture of goodwill.
Yeah.
You might get away with just if you're the Titans, just all right, you can cut Armstead and then we'll sign him. But either way, let's go to that team, the Titans.
Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have no idea how this is going to go for the Tennessee.
Nobody does
this year. On the one hand, though, it is amazing content so far. I mean, look at this glorious bald head energy coming out of the Tennessee Titans building right now. Robert Saleh is collecting the follically challenged Infinity Stones over here in Tennessee, and I love to see it.
A minimum of 9 bald coaches on the staff.
Yes, yeah. There's
including all the coordinators, Dable, Bradley, and then the head coach.
Yes,
Saleh.
And every single one of them just really I worry about them in the sun, I would say.
Here's the problem. I don't know the assistant who's in the bottom middle, but he hasn't really gone home yet. He hasn't decided to give up the ghost. He's got some hair back there, so I think he's going to be insulted that the team retweeted this bald guy.
This picture is probably how he found out.
He's like, okay, it's time to go home. I do find it interesting that this is the first Mike Borgonzi is actually running the show offseason. This changes every Tennessee offseason. And they have $103 million in cap space to spend, so they're going to be active.
And what's interesting is, and I think that Robert Saleh will especially have a say with that front office in shaping specifically the defense. I think that he's hired people, and I'll get to this in a minute, but he's hired people who he feels he can be a little bit more hands-off on in other coordinator spots. But with the defense especially, because he's calling it, I think he'll want to use a lot of that money in building a sort of an identity and keep this defense creditable as it was all season, despite their win-loss record. Plus, have to get Cam Ward some help. Alec Iomanor was great, showed some pop at various points through the year, but they need every
got some
other
candidates.
Receiver spot.
All right, here's just some candidates. Solid guys. Jonathan Franklin Myers was good. He's a free agent. Quincy Williams, free agent, was a solid guy.
1 minute.
How about some Dable guys? Wandale. I could see that. I saw our old friend Justin Graver suggest that one. Would they ever trade for Nick Bosa? Would they ever?
Juwan Jennings.
Juwan Jennings is one. Like there are the guys out there.
And the thing that I have, dynamically speaking, the curiosity I have about this staff, especially, I will be fascinated to dig more into this throughout the season. It's such a mishmash. Okay, I said it right. Of huge personalities under Robert Saleh. Like, he hired guys who either were head coaches or at one point had their hat in the ring to be head coaches at every single coordinator position. Brian Dable, Gus Bradley, who is also one of Robert Saleh's mentors from way, way back, and John Fossil, who is about as high-octane a special teams coach as it actually gets. So for me, all of these guys basically joining forces in one building is going to be so fascinating to me, because if it goes well, everybody has their own island in a good way. If it goes poorly, everybody has their own island in a bad way, in a building where there's been a lot of backstabbing in recent years.
Tons of change coming. Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Will Levis, Tony Pollard, all could be guys that aren't back, free agents. Kevin Zeitler, I think, is going to get some money. Chigo Okonkwo is kind of interesting. A couple of the defensive players. I am up with Denver. Okay. Denver, I'll give the Broncos fans the love that they seem to crave from me specifically. They're always saying, why do you hate on the Broncos? You've been hating on the Broncos. I don't know if there's a team that's in a better position entering this offseason than the Broncos, because they got plenty of cap space. They don't have any bad contracts that they need to cut, and they don't have monster needs. That's where you want to be, and the NFL has a way of humbling you, and you obviously get needs that you didn't realize you have. But to me, it's all of an additive offseason. We're in year 4 of this Peyton and Peyton combo, and like they're just adding to positions that are already okay. Obviously, you'd want a little more dynamism, I think, in the skill positions. That's probably like the one biggest need. You want Bo to get healthy, but Jonathan Franklin Myers, Alex Singleton, Justin Stranato, free agents, like those are useful players. But overall, man, this is like a go time type of off season, and find some. If there's a team that should feel okay overpaying a little for guys that will be with the team for a couple years because they're available, I think they're in a good position to do that. To go after, like, find the guys you really want and just go get them. Like, whoever you want the most this offseason, go get them, Broncos.
And I think that
go win a Super Bowl.
That could potentially be at running back because, I mean, Greg, we sat down with Garrett Bowles and, man, he really wanted to run the ball more. I mean, other than the comments about Bo Nix, and it would have been a different story had Bo Nix been
Could they be an ETN team?
Yeah, exactly. I think so. They could be, if Kenneth Walker doesn't get extended, they could be a Kenneth Walker team. They could be Rico Dowdle, Javonte. I mean, there's a lot of backs who could potentially be fits because Sean Payton will build around what those players do well. And they've got the offensive line truly to be able to plug somebody who's maybe not even at the top of the market back there, but just somebody more experienced, because you know that's kind of what he's looking for as the head coach in his running back at this point, especially if they are so close to getting past this like hurdle. I just felt like they thought they were a running back away, or like
a wide receiver away too.
A run game away. I don't want to blame the backs here.
It's a great receiver room, but they just need a little more of a difference maker.
Well, I think ETN helps in the run game and the receiving game as well. A team that indexes so heavily on the screen. Where again,
me and Patrick have geeked out over that all year.
would love Travis to stay in Jacksonville, but go get a bag for a team that is contending, if not for a 22-yard.
Kenny G wouldn't do it for you.
I was gonna say, do you know, now that I'm looking at it, who I really want to see over there is Kenneth Gainwell.
Why not?
He would be good.
The yards
draft
after
the guy,
game.
draft a receiver in the first round. It's a good receiver draft. Something like that, but
it'll be year 2 of Pat Bryant, who I think will be a bigger part. His injury had an impact as well.
I think that Bowles interview will be instructive for us. I think this is a team that loss hurt more, I think, than any loss for any of the teams this year, because you lose your quarterback the game before. It's all right in front of you. It's pretty unique historically what happened and devastating. They got a chance to make it right this year. All right, let's go with the Chiefs, Patrick.
All right, obviously Kelsey back. If Travis wants to play, Travis is going to play. You're going to sign him and pay him. Hollywood, I think, is gone. I think they need Cook back because you're going to have a corner leaving, another corner leaving, as this is now a
Brian Cook, the safety. Yeah, very high on my list.
Spags tradition. And go ahead and part ways, considering money now an issue for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Gardner Minshew thing has got to eventually be over. Just go ahead and say, if your backup option, which I think, honestly, the Kansas City Chiefs should be a player in the Kyler circumstance, where Mahomes, who is the entire team, we've said this for multiple years, they would be asking him to come back early. And I know he's working hard. He's going to try extra hard and everything. The universe and the human body can only allow so much. To the extent that he is needed to play, he needs to not play at the start of the season so that they can have some hope. That's my overall Kansas City Chief thing. Is have Kyler Murray start the first 6 games, go 6-0,
man,
chaos in the next.
If Kyler was smart, it's so easy for me to say, but you'd have to just take less money and to rehab your value. Like, that'd be so good. I was trying to think, because whoever the Daniel Jones is of 2026, like, that'd be a great pickup for the Chiefs. Like, it shouldn't be Minshew. And for a second, I was like, I could almost see Andy Reid signing Aaron Rodgers to do the first 5 weeks.
Oh my God! Here's what I think.
It's too much. I don't know.
Yeah, that would make me care, because then it would matter. That would not matter.
So Isaiah Pacheco is a free agent, right? And
he gone.
Between that and also the most important move I think the Kansas City Chiefs made this entire calendar year was bringing Eric Bieniemy back as offensive coordinator. Sort of like not so subtly replacing Matt Nagy before he had actually left the building, which was one of the more, we didn't talk about it that much, but it was very much like, oh, it's happening right in front of you, right? Like, it's happening as you are, the seat is not cold yet. In fact, the seat has someone still sitting in it, but I respect it because Andy Reid kind of softened the blow a little bit there. That's huge because they have to reconstruct their run game. Their run game cannot largely run through Patrick Mahomes the way that it did especially at the beginning of this season. and will contribute to his susceptibility to injury in the future.
He restructured his contract, he being Patrick Mahomes, on Wednesday morning. It opens up $45 million in cap space. It is the bank that the Chiefs just go back to every
like
year.
A full quarterback franchise tag.
Tom Brady got so much credit for being underpaid and quote unquote helping the Patriots. And I always thought it was overstated, but there was
everything was.
There was some truth to it. The Patrick Mahomes thing, I don't think can be overstated. He is so underpaid, and the way his contract is structured that he never changes it helps him out a lot. There's still $11 million over the cap. They could do it again with Chris Jones, but Rashee Rice is facing domestic violence allegations. I'm not sure Trent McDuffie is a lock to be back on this team. Leo Chanel's a good player. He's a free agent. Jalen Watson, you mentioned earlier. Like Brett Veach, Andy Reid, they're going to be making their money. There's just a lot going on. I'm fascinated by the Chiefs because you ever see those graphics where it was like, if this team lost all their one-score wins or you flipped the one-score results, what would their record be? You know who like the best team in the NFL was last year if you flipped the one-score games? It was the Kansas City Chiefs. They were not that far away from actually being pretty competitive, if not good. They would have been like 14-3 or something outrageous if you flipped their one-score games. They just were awful.
I'm not that far away from being a billionaire. You just have to flip my bank account.
That's fair. It is always a funny exercise, but it's interesting. Jourdan, Chargers, your guy, Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, I'm so
big feature came out.
Yes, thank you for citing that, Greg. I am so freaking fired up for this. I can't wait to see what this looks like. And the entire season, actually, in my opinion, depends on the offensive line getting healthy. Maybe in bringing an upgrade in depth. They had some big questions when Mekhi Becton was healthy. He was on and off the field. It just was an experiment outside of Stoutland University that didn't quite work out the way that they had hoped or envisioned. And in a worst case scenario, how will Mike McDaniel scheme around if the inevitable curse does strike yet again? How will he sort of scheme around this, which is one of the reasons they brought him in, is because he could be creative should such a scenario come upon them. Importantly, on defense, minus Jesse Minter, I'm very curious to see what this is going to look like. You have a Jesse Minter disciple in Chris O'Leary, who is the new defensive coordinator. And Odafe Owe and Khalil Mack are both free agents. We talked about this earlier this week, Greg. You could tag one, but a good team would extend and then possibly figure it out with Khalil Mack on like a year-to-year with incentives. If there's one thing Khalil Mack's going to do, it's going to be hit those incentives. So I do think trying to bring the band back together in terms of that front will be really important.
They love Mack so much, that's the most likely outcome. But he is talking retirement, and they are a sneaky team, I think, for like a Trey Hendrickson type. Because they have $82 million in cap space. They're the best team that has the most cap space. But they do need to find defensive line, offensive line. You mentioned Becton. I think he's getting cut. Zion Johnson is going to get a big contract. I tend to think it'll come from the Chargers, but he had his best year by far this last year. So if he leaves, that opens up another big hole. So it's very un-Harbaugh-like that I think they're good everywhere except the lines right now. So they need to spend some of that cap space. So that's when I look at like big name guys that are available, but it's probably their own guys like Zion Johnson and Owe.
Yeah.
1 minute.
And also opportunity for Mac to finish his career.
Yeah.
There, I know the idea because if they had needed to move on, but we mentioned the space and the opportunity, he could stay there, which will probably disappoint some folks in Chicago. The idea of a Khalil Mack return there. But
this year, when he talked about it, it felt a little more like, he actually might retire. That's just my gut feeling. He probably comes back, but he might actually retire. It's possible.
One of the reasons I think that Zion Johnson is very likely to get an extension by them is they are a smartly run team at this point, and they know they have to keep investing in their offensive line, and he really became one of their better players on that unit despite all the chaos around him, especially through the back half of the season. And it's very, very sneaky, went really under the radar, but Mike McDaniel went after Butch Barry, his previous offensive line coach in Miami and who he's been close with for years on these different coaching staffs, including in San Francisco. That's a key assistant hire in order to me, that forecast, hey, reinvesting and continue to invest in the offensive line.
Yeah, they could be in the mix. There's a sneaky amount of starting offensive linemen available. The idea is that they're never available in free agency, but guys like Wyatt Teller who can just still play, like guys like David Edwards and Connor McGovern from the Bills. They may not wow you, but they're available, and so maybe the Chargers are the team that's going to spend. The Raiders. We had John Spytek on the show at the Combine. Would love to again. I don't know if he's a listener, but this is a big offseason for him. It's kind of the big John Spytek offseason. That's what I'm saying. Like, what you got, Spytek, because after the season, everyone, like Pete Carroll gets blamed for everything. There was this ESPN article that came out we talked about that almost felt a little unsavory, like kicking dirt on Pete Carroll on the way out. You already won. He got fired. Now it's like, okay, what is the vision now? Because we're blaming the draft on him last year. You got $91 million in cap space. Just outrageous. Like a Crosby deal it makes sense to get draft picks for where they're at as a team. They don't need the money. The last thing they need is more cap space. They have I'm not kidding. The teams that have too much, like, it actually, I believe, is a little bit of a problem because they don't have anyone to spend it on. They're also going to save money by getting rid of Geno, whether that's a cut, which it likely is, or like a late round pick swap if anyone wanted it. And the needs are obvious. It's everything. Like there is nothing that they don't need on the roster. They're going to get a quarterback, but they still need another quarterback too. So even that is a need. So I looked, and there's not many great free agents. Eric Stokes, Malcolm Kuntz, most of the secondary. Pretty much have to replace your entire secondary. But it's kind of like, all right, show us what you got. Spytek, putting him on the hot seat.
Yeah, I think if going by the way Tampa Bay had built out their teams in the past, a member of him being a member of that staff for so long, it was always like, especially up front, draft and develop guys, and then sign your own guys to big money extensions. I think the biggest domino in how badly all of this ended up going was the ripple effect of not either trading back for more picks out of that top pick last year, or it, and I love Ashton Janty, but drafting a running back that high instead of looking at
1 minute.
Trading back and trying to pick up multiple linemen, whether offensive or defensive.
But they did, and they didn't ever play them until the end of the year. That was weird.
And so I think that's where you get it's complicated, right? That's when you get into maybe there's a vision in one part of the building, and then there's not a vision, that same vision in the other part of that building. And by the way, his son is coaching the offensive line, so has a pretty significant say in who's actually getting on the field and who's not on the field. So that's where I'm saying, like, I would just like to see a more cohesive plan from what they're saying, and sort of having fun with the the mind games before the draft last year. I'd like to actually see an identity match what they are saying they want to be, and that is, again, draft and develop and build slowly, and then retain your good players. That's what they say they want to do, and it's Mendoza's season too.
Yeah, but there was a significant contrast with one of the oldest coaches in the NFL, and who would like to win now, who's bringing in veterans to try to get something done now. He's not trying to develop. He was trying to, and so they've eliminated that aspect of the vision. And so now, if there is a shared vision, as you pointed out, Greg, you want to sign your guys, but there's no guys to sign.
Yeah.
So just got to take the L.
And the guys that they signed last year, which for the most part didn't really work out, they're all free agents now too. So
you got to start over.
You're just starting from scratch. The
was,
offensive line has basically been the same for a couple years, which is good or bad. I'm not really sure. Usually it's good, but it hasn't really.
Everything was so chaotic. Like, can we even evaluate the young guys on that roster properly? No. It was all so bad.
No, we'll get another chance.
I mean, maybe your hero could share some notes with you about his thoughts on how.
Yeah, I'll give Chip a call.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant Larry the Brain Frog.
No,
was your hero, because we actually have dug up footage of a segment featuring Larry the Brain Frog on NFL Network. Look, we were honking for a while, hitting every single AFC team.
This is incredible.
Our crack research staff that included Eric Roberts and Chris Babona found a video. Let's watch.
Because he's got the brain frog. Brain frog? The frog's name is Larry. Baby. Yeah, Larry lives in Steve's head, and he tells him, eat your vegetables, but he doesn't listen to him. Is this the brain frog right here? I think that's the brain frog. It's a brain frog. Yeah, it's a frog that lives in Steve's brain. And so you guys took notice as well. HWView tweeting, the key thing about today's NFL Fantasy Live show was the term brain frog was born. Here's the thing, that one guy, it's not just a term. The brain frog is an actual frog that lives inside of the head of Steve from accounting. And we thought since Steve is so good at hacking the servers and taking fantasy players, why don't we invite Larry to come on our show? So making his Fantasy Live debut, it's Larry, the brain frog.
There's an audio medium.
This technology is incredible.
Hello.
Hey, Larry. It's so great to have you on the show. Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us in the swamp in there in Steve's brain?
Wow.
So that was
Production out.
Larry the brain
off
frog.
the charts right there.
And then you got a shirt out of it too.
Because he's got the brain frog. Brain frog.
We need that as a drop. Now, Larry the Brain Frog, can he be part of NFL Daily occasionally too?
Yeah, we'll see if we have access to the puppet, maybe. I can't do as good of a voice as Rank.
Shout out to Adam Rank and Michael F. Florio, always getting it done on NFL Fantasy. We got it done. We talked about the entire AFC. I think we provided context and information, and we did it in a fun way. And we're going to do the same with the NFC, and that show is coming up on Thursday. What a big week this is. It's like a slow build.
Maybe not big, but important.
But important.
The rim rods? No? Not doing that? AFC today. That felt good. We will be back on Thursday with the NFC. We'll see you then.